Good evening, this is Nerfed the Human, and welcome to this time-lapse of Rome Remastered. And today we play with the rule set of no Marian reforms, which is obviously there to try and nerf the Romans after last time we saw the Brutii succeed. As you might well expect, they're probably the most well-placed faction. And at this point of the game, somewhere around the middle, 157, we can see the Brutii are indeed doing very well. We can also see this is the exact moment where as Spain pushed towards Rome, and we've seen that before on Rome Remastered. This time, SPQR actually pushed them back for a little while and started conquering territory for itself. That was quite interesting, it should be said, but as we knew, Spain in the end would be too strong for the Romans and would eventually give them the knockout blow. However, let me bring you to the winter of 54 BC, when officially the Spanish became victorious. Imperator, 50 settlements including Rome, the Spanish were truly the dominant victors on this here campaign. And actually last time we did a time-lapse on Rome Remastered, the Spanish did get to the gates of Rome, but eventually did get themselves defeated. That's 2 out of 2 now, where Spain have done very well. It's a small sample size, but I do feel like Spain seems stronger with some of the slight changes on the remaster, although perhaps it is just an anomaly. Nonetheless, Spain's victory is very well deserved. Now, I should give a big shout out to the Seleucids, who did a marvellous job over in this part of the world. The Spanish and the Seleucids were at war towards the end of this game, I should point out, but realistically the Seleucids did a good job of holding off the Scipioni with plenty of nonsense around Egypt, just kind of keeping them at the gates. And likewise, as they met the Brutii here in the Scythian territories, they would manage to hold the line and kind of push the Brutii back and eventually meet up with the Spanish in the middle. It was an interesting campaign, and one where I want to celebrate a few of the minnows, the likes of Carthage, who sat here on the Balearics and somehow survived. They even took back Sardinia a couple of times. You see they even got an army there at the end of the game. I think that stood there for the next 50 years as well. We saw the Brutii at the end hold on with just Crete. At this point, they just still had Rhodes. No, the Egyptians had Rhodes at this point. They would take it, lose it, but eventually be left here on their little island. At this stage, yeah, they've just got a couple things left. But they'd be one of those with one settlement, as Egypt would eventually be left with only Cyprus and Scythia, who didn't quite make it to the death, but did for most of the game, managed to hide up here in the Amazonian little forest. So some great survivors here. Britons, to be honest, weren't so much survivors as they kept on taking on the Spanish, but would never manage to get very far. Oh, this has been quite a thoroughly interesting one, but I think maybe let's just have a look at one more thing. To finish off, I'm going to bring us back to 105 BC, and this is a crucial point in the war. The place where you can really see the Brutii collapsing. The Seleucids to the east and the Spanish to the west. But why home sweet home up in the north, you ask? Well, if you watch back, this is where the Julii had their last settlement, and as soon as the Julii collapsed, the Brutii suddenly crumbled. They'd done a pretty good job of building an empire and holding it, pushing back against the Spanish. They actually reclaimed all of northern Italy at one point. But no, with their Julii allies falling, they couldn't hold against the two mighty, mighty empires either side of them. Now, Spain had always been a problem, but as the Seleucids pushed in this direction, that really made it too much of an issue for the Brutii. Now, obviously, the Romans don't have the Marian reforms. That was indeed the rule set we were playing with. And we saw in the original Rome time lapses when we did this particular rule set, the Romans tended to struggle. Now, interestingly, they seem to have done better here than they normally have. I don't know if it's simply that the hoplites are a little bit nerfed. Maybe they have an easier time pushing eastward without the Marian reform. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, in the end, they would crumble to the mighty Spanish. And I do think it's kind of interesting how, whilst the Julii weren't particularly strong, they seem to be an important buffer, just helping the Brutii keep a strong line against the Spanish. But in the end, as we say, a mighty, mighty victory for the Spanish. A full victory, which we don't always see on these time lapses. So there we are. Do suggest to me any future time lapses that you might recommend. We're going to do a few more with the remaster. I think it's interesting to see how we maybe get some different results with this version of the game. But for now, I will leave you. I'm Thomas. This is Nerfed the Human. and this has been a time lapse for Rome Remastered with no Marian reforms. Thank you, and bye-bye. They're all queuing up to fight them. These are truly the British rebels right here. War cry and charge at the dogs of war. Oh, they're routing again. What are you doing, my silly trumpet? They're actually taking on my reinforcements. Welcome to the Rebel Experience, ladies and gents.